I was so deep in a rut that I could only see a slice of blue sky. And it was long, a 4-year journey through the desert with no oasis in sight. I looked for shortcuts. I even thought about ending it all, but that would crush my parents. I felt the universe holding me under, as if it was punishing me for decisions I made along the journey. Frustration and anger were only the surface feelings. Underneath the surface were feelings of despair, guilt, shame, envy, jealousy, and lack. I couldn't take it anymore. Then that Labor Day morning, an invitation came. A small Labor Day party at a bungalow on Manhattan Beach, California. I accepted because I could not stand the thought of sitting in my 200 square foot Burbank bedroom on the side of a freeway entrance ramp on this hot sunny day. I accepted because I could not stand the desolate, hopeless loneliness that I was suffering with. So I went with 2 friends. Strangely, I felt inspired after I arrived. I laughed a lot. I watched people play volleyball, and I knew I wanted to play. It wasn't my day to play, but I knew one day that I would. I felt inspired by the bungalow, by the lifestyle of its owners, and by the kickback culture of disheveled hairstyles, ocean air, blue skies, sand, and volleyball. The bumps, sets, and spikes of the volleyball players made me feel exhilarated, and I wasn't even playing. I wanted to play badly, but I knew this game was harder than it looked. I didn't feel envious of the house or its owners. I felt inspired by it all. I felt inspired by nature, by the breeze, and by an unexplainable glimmer of hope that somehow hit me like a wave of caffeine in the middle of a great cup of coffee. We left the small party a few hours later. On the ride north up the 405 freeway back to Burbank, the music on the radio went down like a top-shelf scotch. At the end of the day, I felt a creative itch inside. I didn't know how or where to use it, but I knew something had shifted. Inspiration had replaced isolation. I had an epiphany the very next week, and in the next 4 months, I had a new career that had changed my life. So how exactly did this 4-year rut end? Let's grab a coffee with some stoic philosophers and creative geniuses and find out what happened. This is a video about how to get out of a rut. Sometimes ruts feel never-ending, and when they end, we're not sure how it happened. But when we reflect upon our past ruts and how we got in them and how we got out of them, we can find patterns that we can use to eject ourselves again should they return. When we've escaped a rut, it's often the result of a pattern interrupt. Pattern interrupts give us the leverage to eject from a rut. Certain thought patterns and bad decisions gently guide us into ruts. These types of thought patterns keep us in our comfort zones. They give us short-term pleasure, and they create bad habits. This habitual short-term pleasure comes at the expense of progressing and growing. As a result, we end up in a rut, and the only way out is to interrupt the patterns that got us into it. Here are 5 pattern interrupts to help you get out of a rut. Number 1, take a trip. Sometimes tapping into our sense of adventure gets us out of ruts. Some of us change when we change our environments. We see the world differently. We have unexpected thoughts such as, what if I opened a small cafe in Sayulita, Mexico, instead of pursued a career as an investment banker? When we're on a trip, we tend to ask ourselves better questions such as, What makes me happy? How can I add more value? Am I in touch with my community? If not, should I move? When we ask the right questions in a relaxed state, our subconscious mind finds solutions for us fast. Number 2, act courageously. David Data teaches us how we need to identify the boundary of our comfort zone and live slightly past it every day. Not so far past that boundary that we live in fear and anxiety, but just far enough past the boundary to heighten our senses. There's something about courageous action that changes the way we walk, speak, and think. Courage is when you feel the fear and do it anyway. A courageous act, no matter how small, gives us a shot of confidence and a dose of wisdom. Number 3, make a committed decision. One of the most powerful ways to get out of a rut is to make a committed decision to set sail on a new adventure. That can mean deciding to start a business and doing at least one small task daily to move it forward. Or it can mean deciding to date and make progress daily by striking up conversations, accepting that you may feel rejected during the process, and viewing each rejection as a success because you genuinely put yourself out there and you're one step closer to connecting with someone. Something good always comes from committed action. There are many examples. Here's one from my own life. I once decided to try and launch a supplement on Amazon. I invested $500 in a course. I learned how to source the product. I created the logo. I created the supplement label. Then I learned copywriting so I could make a good listing. I followed all the instructions in the course, but I still made mistakes and the product flopped. However, it led to a software venture that never would have happened had I not tried that venture. So set sail in any direction. Pick one now. Success will come from it, even if it's located on a different path than the one you started down. Number 4, get wins daily. Once you start down a new path, do at least 5 to 10 minutes of work daily in the direction of that path. Once you start, you'll often find yourself wanting to work more because momentum kicks in. They say that happiness is found on the journey, not the destination. And task completion is one reason why. Our brains reward us with dopamine when we complete a task, even a small one. When task completion triggers dopamine instead of bad habits like social media, you make progress. And according to Tony Robbins, progress is happiness. And my own experience confirms how much that statement is true. Number 5, celebrate each win. To celebrate each win, we must first define what a win is. A win is a completed task, no matter how small. Did you get rejected by a dating prospect that you showed genuine interest in? If so, celebrate it. That's a win. The act of putting yourself out there is a success. Celebrate that. Did you complete one small task today to move your business forward? That's a win. Celebrate it. Give yourself a high five while you're looking in the mirror or jump in the air. Do small, courageous acts daily and celebrate each one you complete, and you will magically become dislodged from a rut. We all end up in ruts from time to time. they're inevitable. Ruts are a signal that it's time to leave our comfort zones and take courageous action. That it's time to take a risk. That it's time to travel. It's time to make a decision and be courageous. It's time to meet a new friend or a new lover or to start a new career. It's time to replace a bad habit with a good habit. Accept ruts for what they are. A rut is a gift. It's nature's way of telling us that we need to grow through action, so we can contribute on a large scale to something much bigger than ourselves. And because at the start of the day, it's just coffee.